How did COVID originate? Who was behind the debacle in Afghanistan? How many people have come across our open southern border illegally, including how many are on the terrorist watch list? Which states have they been sent to? They won't answer any of these questions. That's about to change.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your AMAC podcast, Better for America. Today we have with us one of America's most thoughtful, courageous, and prominent leaders. He is the newly elected House Majority Leader who will assume his duties in January. Now, looking back before we look ahead, he has been central to U.S. House Republican leadership, serving as Minority Whip. He is, of course, the highly respected congressman from Louisiana's 1st District, known to the entire nation for his unblinking courage as he battled severe wounds suffered when a gunman attacked Republicans in the 2017 congressional baseball game. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome a national hero, an example of service and conviction, and the nation's new House Majority Leader, Congressman Steve Scalise. Welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Wow, thanks so much for that warm introduction, Rebecca. Really appreciate being with you.
Wonderful. Congressman, we are living in such challenging times, and your leadership and moral compass gives us not just some balance, but really an example of how good leaders act. So with you as Majority Leader and a new leadership team in the House, Republicans are finally able to restore a sense of accountability. But there are so many issues. We see inflation, energy, the open border, law enforcement, for example, and national security. Where do we start? What are the top issues that you and the new majority plan to target for oversight?
Right. There's so many challenges that are facing our country right now. And if you look at the Biden agenda for the last 2 years, it's been devastating, especially to hardworking families, lower and middle income families who are struggling under the weight of inflation, energy costs, open border, all brought on by policies pushed by radical big government socialists here in Washington. So we want to start pushing back on that. We want to bring bills in the House once we're in the majority in just a few weeks to show the country how we can secure the border, how we can actually lower energy costs and lower inflation, get spending in Washington under control, help make sure law enforcement have the tools they needed by pushing back against the defund the police radicals that we're seeing. So in addition to bringing bills to do all this, I think our country is so desperately hungry for real oversight and accountability. All of the agencies that we've seen that have failed in their mission to the American people, and yet we haven't been able to get answers for 2 years now on basic questions. How did COVID originate? Who was behind the debacle in Afghanistan? How many people have come across our open southern border illegally, including how many are on the terrorist watch list? Which states have they been sent to? They won't answer any of these questions. That's about to change when we're in the majority, where we can have hearings, the Oversight Committee, Jim Jordan with the Judiciary Committee, bringing in big tech CEOs. I think that's something that people are hungry for, to get some real answers, to get some real accountability from the failures of government.
That is all very good news, and I'm sure that you and the incoming leadership are very consumed by planning and setting your priorities and assuring committees. I do want to focus for a moment, though, on an issue that you know especially well, not just from Louisiana, a major energy producer, but because you have served on the key committees tied to energy. Many Americans, they know the truth, despite, our president blaming Russia and U.S. consumers for inflation. Much of the current inflation comes from Biden's hostility to fossil fuels. If we want to get inflation down, don't we have to rethink energy? And assuming America's fossil fuel wealth, could be tapped again, can a Republican-led House force the president's hand and get fuel and related prices under control?
Yeah, this is going to be front and center in our bold conservative agenda that we move early off, January, February, March. You're going to see bills on the House floor to become energy independent again. I mean, why should we be begging foreign countries for our energy when we can make it here? And so if you look at Joe Biden's agenda, it's not that he's against all oil and gas. He's only against American oil and gas. Day one, he killed the Keystone pipeline, but then he went and greenlighted Russia's pipeline to Germany, making Europe more dependent on Russian energy. He begged Putin for more oil. So he says oil and gas is destroying the planet, yet he begs countries who emit more carbon to make the same oil to produce our energy instead of letting America do it. We do it better than anybody else in the world. One thing, Rebecca, I think people are fed up with is watching some of these big government socialists wake up every day and trash America. They beat up on America every day. They teach hatred of America in our schools. They talk about how American energy is so bad, but they fly around on private jets and go to foreign countries and beg them to produce energy instead of us. It makes no sense. It shouldn't be Saudi or Russia or Venezuela or Iran producing energy that we use. It should be America. And so we're going to bring bills to show the country how to do that. And oh, by the way, it will also lower inflation. It'll lower the cost of energy, not just gasoline at the pump, but in a cold winter like this, the housing costs, electricity costs are going up dramatically. People can't even keep their homes warm enough during this cold winter because of Biden's failed energy agenda.
Yeah, a lot of Americans and tens of thousands of AMAC members in every state are more than frustrated, and they're highly active in the process, but they do face challenges. Those on fixed incomes see their life savings slipping away. They see crime going through the roof, borders wide open, drug traffickers getting a pass. Our kids are being re-educated with dangerous nonsense, and our parents are being threatened. I was shocked to see overdoses exceeding 100,000. So all of this is so important. Do you see that these critical mistakes are reversible? If not right away, then at least in 2024?
Yeah, and I think this is the most frustrating thing to people is that Biden could do this himself. President Biden, by the stroke of a pen, can reverse the failed policies that he himself put in place, not by law, but by executive action. Again, you go to day one, it wasn't just energy that he went after through executive orders. It was the border. He opened up the border by getting rid of the Remain in Mexico policy, by halting on day one construction of the wall that we had funded working with President Trump. It was actually a strong deterrent. Remain in Mexico was a strong deterrent. If somebody seeks asylum, stay in Mexico while you make your claim. Most of those claims are rejected. What Biden did was day one end that and say, come to America. 5 years from now, you'll get a court date. We'll never see you again, but you're in America illegally, and we'll just look the other way. That has been devastating. And again, who's paying the price the hardest? It's lower and middle income families. Plus, as you touched on, last year alone, more than 100,000 young people died from opioid overdoses. This is an illegal drug coming from China, made in China, coming across our open southern border because he's given total operational control of our southern border to the Mexican drug cartels. Why would we be letting that happen? 300 young people a day are dying. That could be stopped if we just secured our southern border, and they're going the opposite direction. What Biden and Mayorkas are doing is actually encouraging more people, not less, to come across the border to our country illegally, causing deaths, causing destruction. These cities, El Paso, Eagle Pass, these towns are being overrun. They don't have the resources to handle it, and Biden just doesn't care. He won't go down and look at it himself. He won't send his border czar, Kamala Harris, won't even go down and see it herself. We're going to have hearings at the southern border so that, at least on C-SPAN, congressional hearings will be held on the border where you can see just how bad this problem is and how preventable it is.
Well, we really appreciate that. We appreciate your leadership so much. I mean, this is all very positive, and we're very prayerful and hopeful that we can change course and get this nation on a better track. We appreciate your America First, approach, really, and it is so important. I want to ask you a final question before we let you run. What can average Americans, patriots, and believers in America's exceptionalism, what can they do to support greater accountability in government? And finally, what kind of hope do you see for our future with all that we discussed, because there is so much negative? How do we right the ship? And I know you've got a lot of great ideas, but how do ordinary people be a part of that great movement?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because there is something people can do. And of course, voting is the most important thing. We saw in this last election, people went to the polls and flipped the House, fired Nancy Pelosi, and gave us a Republican majority. So at least we can stop the bleeding. We can also start passing bills through the House to show the country how to fix these problems. And I think in terms of hope, these are very fixable problems. It's not like the 70s when we had an energy shortage because technology just didn't allow us to produce enough energy. Technology's caught up. We now know how much energy we have in America that they didn't even have ability to access in the 70s. And yet it's policies from Joe Biden that are shutting it down. And so this is where it's going to be important for people. and I'm glad millions of more people voted. But now's the time when we pass bills through the House to lower your energy costs. It's not done. It goes over to the United States Senate, which is run by Chuck Schumer and Democrats. If you're in a state where your senators are not supporting the bills to secure our border, if they're not supporting the bills to lower energy costs, pick up the phone and call your two senators and encourage them. We're going to pass really good bills out of the House to fix these problems. Nothing happens if they don't go out of the Senate to the president's desk. And so that's where it's going to be important. And we'll be letting people know now's the time to call your senator. This bill just passed the House. It's not going to go anywhere if your senators don't get up and say they'll support it, because a lot of them are going to be opposing it initially. If they start hearing from thousands of people in their state saying, vote for the bill that'll lower my energy costs, and right now you're against the bill, you got to pick a side. You can't run the middle and go, hey, I'm for you, I'm for everything that's great, and then they vote against the bill that actually fixes your problems. You've got to let them know this bill's important to me. I want you to vote yes, and then watch their vote. Hold them accountable for those votes.
That is great advice, and it's exactly what AMAC Action is busy doing. And for all of you AMACers listening out there, be sure to sign up at AMAC Action. That is for calls to action. We will be working very closely to ensure that your voice is heard in Washington. Congressman Scalise, it is such a pleasure to have you here with us. You are our nation's new House Majority Leader, and we thank you for your time today. You're a real hero, and we are grateful for your leadership and look forward to working with you and all the great folks in the new Congress. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Great being with you. I look forward to the battles ahead.
Amen.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you. Merry Christmas to you, sir. And I want to thank each and every one of you out there listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't downloaded the AMAC app, you can watch and listen to this show and track breaking news and get the information you want with the ease you need. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share wherever you are on social media. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your podcast, Better for America. Thank you for joining us. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Have a safe and happy holiday to all.